Hi, I'm D. Sham. We would like to say thank you for viewing our channel. My wife and I, we count it an honor and a privilege that you take time out to visit our channel. We have a wonderful study today. Our study will be on Been Through the Fire. Wow, how many people can testify of that, been through the fire? Well, we'll study today all about this fire, and that this fire that we go through, you know what? It's not in vain. I want you to know that. I want you to be encouraged. If you're going through the fire, or as our title is, Been Through the Fire, I want you to be encouraged about this fire. So let's go to the Word of God first of all to set the foundation. We'll turn to the book of Job, chapter 23, verses 10 and 11. I'll place it up on the screen, and of course, I'll read it for you in your hearing. I will be reading from the Berean Study Bible, and it reads, "Yet he knows the way I have taken. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. My feet have followed in his tracks. I have kept his way without turning aside." What a testimony. I mean, why would we study anyone else? Somebody who's been through the fire knows what it's like. Now, the fire that I'm speaking of, or that our study is on today, that my wife has given us to study, it's not the fire and the flames like in the Old Testament with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That was their slave names. That's not the fiery furnace, but the fire that he's speaking of. I'd like to put a little description for you. It's from my dictionary. It's the 8th definition of this word fire. And I'll put it up on the screen so that you can see. And I'll read it for you, or I'll read what it states in the 8th definition. It reads, "It's intense, repeated attacks or criticism." So that's the fire that we're speaking about today. This intensity, this heat, this hot, repeated attacks against your character, this critical finger pointing, you know how it gets when people are on your back, consistently riding you. That's like the fire. You feel the heat. That's the type of fire that we're speaking of today. And as we saw from Job's testimony, he has kept his course that God has set before him, and that ultimately he would come forth as gold because he followed in the tracks that God, or the direction that God had laid out for him, refusing to turn aside. So he accomplished his mission. He accomplished the goal, or what God had requested him to do. And so he had no alternative but to come forth as gold, or to please God in the ultimate finality of his mission, of his walk of obedience. See, the purpose of the flame, or to go through the fire, is so that debris can be burnt off. Now, pure gold goes through a process, and without going into much detail about pure gold, we have to go through a process to be purified, to be cleansed. It's like taking a shower. You know, you can get in and take a shower. If you don't use soap or a good body wash, well, you'll get wet, and there'll be a unique smell to your body because you got wet, but you didn't clean yourself or purify or scrub your pores. And this is the process of our spirit that needs to be cleaned, the process of our personality, our tendencies, you know, that unique word, our proclivity to do things that somehow just seems to be in us, that we just tend to, when the fire's turned up, this is how we react. This is what we do. Well, that's what needs to be burnt up in the fire. that unbelief, that doubt, that worry, that fear, that lying, that lust, that gossip. Those are the things that need to be burnt up out of our character so that we can come forth pure. We can come forth clean. We can come forth renewed, refreshed, revived. Everyone, including Job, that has went through the fire in life, through the intense criticism and the repeated attacks, everyone has had that type of experience. And when you go through that experience, there's a purpose for it. When Shadrach, Meshach went through the fire, actually in the fire, and while they were in the fire, they didn't smell like the fire, and they came out, there was a promotion waiting for them on the end of the fire. And God is not a respecter of persons. He has a promotion just for you. But in order to get to the promotion or to the promised land, we must go through the fire. Now, the word of encouragement we have today is been through the fire. Okay, so I'm talking to the ones that have been through the fire, that have been through the criticism, that have been through the bullying, that have been through the gossip, that have been through. And once you have been through, that means you've been through a process. God has been stripping away some things from your character, from your tendencies, so that you react differently, so that you speak differently. And so He's refining you, He's scrubbing you, He's renewing you, He's refreshing you, reviving you. And once you've been through, then you've qualified for that promise, that blessing. I like to call it the promised land. You see, the unique thing when you've been through the fire and you make it to the promised land, you will stay there. You won't get kicked out. Now, some people who've never been through the fire, or who choose to go around the fire or go through a shortcut or another path, then they take with them all of their tendencies into the promised land, into that place of blessing that God has prepared for you. And the thing about it is, when you take all those things that have not been refined, you tend to get vomited out of the promised land. I know that's a strong word, but when something enters into your body and it just does not agree, that is not healthy, that is maybe stale, that is may be infected, then your body rejects it. And that's like entering into the promised land and you still have doubt. You still have worry. You still have fear. You still lie under pressure. You still cheat. You still manipulate. Those are those things that happen when you get under pressure. And what God is doing for those that are in the fire right now is He's purifying you. He's scrubbing you. He's cleaning you so that once you get to the other side, you stay in the promised land, or you stay in that position of blessing. That's the whole purpose of the fire. That's the purpose of going through the fire. When you've been through the fire, then you're ready. I mean, your bags are packed. I mean, you're sitting on the couch. You're listening for the horn to be blown. Bump, bump. You ready to go. Or you're waiting for the door, the knock on the door. Doom, doom, doom. You're ready to go. It's not like you're getting ready. You've been through the fire. You've been through the lying. You've been through the bullying, the deceit. And guess what? In order to come forth as gold like Job, you've got to pray for your friends. That's what Job did. He had to pray for his friends. That was the final straw to get him through the preparation. You got to pray for the people who've lied on you. Got to. You got to pray for the people who criticize you, who point fingers at you. Got to. This is that new you. This is that refined you. This is that letting the Lord fight your battles. This is that love over hate. This is that blessing instead of cursing. Not blessing God with one tongue and then cursing man with another. This is no foul communication coming out of your mouth. This is that level. This is the new you. This is the individual that has been through the fire. When you've been through the fire, it's noticeable. People can recognize it. Hey, something different about you. Back in the day when somebody did that, you would do this. No, you've been through the fire. You've changed. You've matured. You've grown. you've evolved. You probably transformed from an old creature to a new creature. And we can continue to grow and to mature until we become bright as light. So there's no limit to our growth. But we do know when we've been through the fire. We know what it's like. You see, God rewards those who have been through the fire. He rewards those who are loyal, faithful, consistent, reliable, dependable, steadfast, truthful. God rewards. He rewarded Job. Job spoke that into chapter 23, but around in chapter 42, that's when all the blessings start happening. But before the blessings start happening, he prayed for his friends. God is not a respecter of persons. What he's done for others, he will do for you. When Daniel was arrested, thrown into the den of lions, but he remained faithful, he continued to pray and to trust God, God rewarded him. You know the story of Esther, Mordecai, and Haman. God rewarded Esther, Queen Esther, and her relative Mordecai. They were rewarded. They remained faithful to God. God rewarded them, but they went through adversity. They went through someone lying on them. They went through criticism. They went through it. God rewarded them. God's going to reward you. Once you've been through the fire and your response is to pray, and your response is not to get vengeance, but vengeance is mine, but leave it in God's hands. Your response is to bless and not curse. You're ready. You're ready. That's our word of encouragement for you today that my wife has given us. When you've been through the fire, that means you are ready. A lot of times we're wondering, Lord, what's next? What do I got to do next? I'm doing everything you ask me to do. He's not asking you to do anything else. You're ready. You've got your clothes on. You got your shoes on. You're sitting at the edge of the couch. You're listening for the knock at the door or the blow of the horn. You're ready. See the headlights drive up from down the street. Nothing else. You don't have to do anything else because you've been through the fire and you've grown. That's our word of encouragement for you today, to those who have been through the fire. God is on his way. You've proven yourself. You've been found faithful. Nothing else you have to do. If you're not a subscriber, my wife and I would love for you to subscribe to our channel, to like or to give us a thumbs up, and to share, of course, our videos on your social media. Don't forget to hit the bell. That way, you will be notified of our next video, word of encouragement. My wife and I, we are committed to riding with you all the way through this COVID-19 pandemic. And once we all have been through the fire, we know God's got nothing but a promise for us, a promised land, a promised blessing. And just like Job, he got double. God's not a respecter of person. I want you to expect double those that have been through the fire. Have a blessed day.